is Melanie Steinberg, and I did my country report about South Korea. So South Korea experiences many different kinds of disasters. They experience floods and heavy snowfall, typhoons, landslides, fires, drought, and sandstorms. So the history dates back when it comes to South Korean emergency management. In 1312, the Kuro dynasty was the first dynasty to accomplish firefighting in Korean history, and this kind of set the stage for what was to come. The National Emergency Agency, or NEMA, was created and has been in place since 2004. But after the Sewol incident in 2014, this was abolished and it was replaced with the Ministry of Public Safety and Security, which is now currently the main emergency management disaster part that deals with disasters in Korea. So the MPPS, or the Ministry of Public Safety and Security, is set to improve the disaster management system in Korea they gave the local governments more power so that they would be the first to respond to a disaster. So because the local government deals with the situation first, this could be viewed as a bottom-up implementation pattern, because local governments are the first to respond to a disaster, and then if they become overwhelmed or if it's too much responsibility for them, then the central and national levels of government will come in to help alleviate the stress from the local level. So there's just a couple of examples that helped shape South Korea's emergency management now. For example, Typhoon Mamie in 2003, it killed 130 people, and it was the strongest typhoon recorded in history. So because of this, the Emergency and Safety Management Basic Act was passed, and this was included when NEMA was first created. And then the Sewol ferry disaster of 2014 basically made them completely overthink their emergency management plan, and they came up with a whole new one because of this disaster that had occurred. So of course there were some problems with the old and new disaster management plan. The big problem was that there wasn't the proper staff, so there weren't professionally trained specialists to handle disasters. There was also no national framework, so when it comes to handling a disaster, there's no communication or cooperation between the different agencies. So there's a lack of leadership and people just don't know what to do when it happens. There's also not a good education system in classes about disaster management. So because of these reasons, this is why MPSS was created, to help build a better command system for disaster and safety. And here in the United States, we have NGOs, or non-governmental organizations, but those aren't a big thing in Korea. The big thing that they have are CBOs, or community-based organizations. And even though Korea does have some NGOs, these two organizations typically don't work together. So CBOs play a major role when it comes to helping communities, and volunteering also isn't that big in Korea as it is here, because usually the customs over there is that if you help someone, they expect something in return. And since the volunteers aren't closely trained, they don't really know what to do when it comes to helping people with disasters. So sometimes the situations could actually be worse. Negative influences also about the disaster management is the culture of the Korean people, because the people there tend to focus more on the consequences of the actual disasters instead of being prepared ahead of time. So the recovery phase is focused more than the other three phases of emergency management. There's still improvements that need to be made, however, to their current system. Staff needs to be hired so that people know how to prepare and mitigate for disasters. Also, the NGOs need to be utilized effectively, and citizens need to be educated at a young age about how important disaster management is, and safety awarenesses are just some of the things that need improvement.